Happy Monday, traders. This is Christian Fromhertz, CEO of the Tribeca Trade Group, with your end-of-day recap for Monday. So S&P, we'll kind of go over a couple different things here. We'll talk about today's option flow. Was it aggressive? Or did people buy the dip today? We'll talk about the overall market activity, and we'll start with the indices. So S&P basically just down 6, 7 basis points. So despite what you see in the financial media where they're talking about tech wreck and all this stuff, there really wasn't too much of an exciting day. We actually didn't move too much. We did rebound from the lows, which was nice, but we kind of stalled out midday, and there really wasn't much to do in the afternoon. There was a couple interesting option activities. There was a couple, there was a couple interesting option trades, which I'm going to go over in just a second. But let's finish with the overall indices. So S&P, really nothing to kind of say that changed here. Momentum obviously waning out. We're basically right back where we were from the beginning of last week. So there's nothing really to kind of overanalyze here. Nasdaq, or if you look at Qs, it's basically the same thing. We actually came back and held the top of value. So you could see the price is, we flirted with going into value for a couple of days. We actually took out Friday's lows. But we did come back. So the first thing that I was kind of looking for today, even before we kind of took another leg lower this morning, was could we take out yesterday's close? We weren't really able to do that. I had a bunch of alerts set up today where I thought things could get interesting for us to kind of take out some levels. Let me just zoom out here and I'll kind of show you what the main point of the day was. So if you look at NASDAQ, you could see, or if you look at Qs, jump over to Qs here. Notice that we try to get into value a couple times. This was Friday's close, and throughout the morning session, we hit, again, this is really, for me, important to have these value areas on my charts because I don't really want to take a position if I've got resistance right ahead. When we saw the recovery this morning of, where we hit a low about 9:45 in the morning and a nice recovery back, I said, well, we've got some work to do. And this basically looked the same in a lot of different, looks very similar in a lot of charts. And we never really could get into value for the day. We just didn't have enough oomph behind it. So if you look at Google, for example, it's the same thing. We hit that bottom of value resistance and we couldn't break past it. There just wasn't enough momentum. There just wasn't enough buying. Same thing with Amazon. BABA was a little bit different. We played BABA because BABA got into the value area today. Try to get through a little bit further and just kind of stalled out for the rest of the day. So that's kind of where there were some other names that people really weren't focused on. But I just want to talk about, first of all, this what are they calling it? Tech wreck, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Listen, there's a couple things going on, right? We know that there's kind of been a seller present. There was an announcement this morning that Viking Global is basically returning $8 billion of money back to investors. You look at the holdings, the top holdings of Viking Global. What do they own? They own their top holding, Facebook, Microsoft. You got Deere in here as well, but you got Alphabet, both of them, the Google and the Goog. So why do these positions go down? They obviously well. I don't want to say this was the only thing, but perhaps they were selling a little bit the last couple of days, especially on Friday. And if you kind of go up and down the list further, Netflix is in here, Broadcom is in here, which got pretty beat up on Friday. So up and down the list, you can kind of see, oh, that name went down a lot, that name went down a lot, and so on and so forth. The other thing that people don't talk about, I don't know why they don't. They talk about so many different things in financial media, but you have an S&P rebalance on Friday. It's quadruple witching, and one of the witches that nobody seems to talk about is the S&P rebalances all of their indices, all of the sector indices, and the S&P 500. So not only is it the one or two like one-off changes where they include one name and delete one name, the whole index gets rebalanced back to the market cap weighting. I'm not going to just spend 10 minutes talking about how an index rebalance works, but they only do this once a quarter. So back in March, the MSCI will or S&P indices, what they will do is they will say, okay, these are how the indices should be weighted, and they'll do all the buying and selling of all the assets that track these indices, and they'll put them back together in March. what happens between now and June expiration is the one variable that changes is price. So as certain names rally, they become overweighted in all the indices. Those names that have become overweighted just because the price has gone up makes them a bigger weight. So for example, if you look in the S&P, some of these names that are the bigger weights, Apple, same names in common, right? Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, J&J's up there, Facebook, Exxon. These are all names that have to be reduced. They have to go out and sell these names. So you're essentially selling the winners and buying the losers. This was announced last Friday. And then, of course, what all the indexers do on portfolio desks at different broker dealers, they will try to actually, because this trade happens on Friday and it's pretty much a known event for anybody who works on an institutional trading desk, they will go out and try to game this trade or kind of trade ahead of this index rebalance, especially if there's a lot of things to do. So I know, for instance, I have a pretty good number for how much tech needs to be sold in the S&P on Friday. It's in the $1 billion that has to be sold. So I don't want to reveal the exact amount that I was told, but it's in the $1 billion. So when you couple that with what happened with Viking Global, and also that everything was overbought, it makes sense for things to pull back a little bit. So it's not the end of the world. This kind of thing happens in trading. What you'll get is and think of it, the one takeaway is after Friday, the index rebalancing will be done and things kind of go back to normal. So, there will be some opportunities, I think, to buy dips, but you have to be cognizant of levels. For me, a lot of the levels that I was looking at today in certain things, we just didn't get there. We didn't get into the value area. So I really kind of sat on my hands today. In terms of unusual option activity, there was some interesting trades that went up in the beginning of the day. Some names that another thing, people are like, oh wow, this retail name is up 5% today, and there's no news. It's because of the index rebalance. For another index that rebalances that's pretty big is the XRT. It's the retail equally weighted ETF, and all those names get reweighted back to equally weight. So again, I didn't mean to talk too much about this phenomenon today, but you hear people on Twitter and they're like, why is this name up so much? Because it has to be, a lot of names have to get bought and sold. And you'll see some of the underperformers rally a bit and some of the outperformers come in a little bit. But keep in mind, all of the weights here on the right, these should all equal about the same. You could see Wayfair, Rent-A-Center, Sprouts. These are all names that have outperformed, and they'll probably have to get sold a little bit by the end of the week. Okay, so names that saw a little bit of call buying in the morning was IBM, Yelp. I didn't take either one of I didn't take these trades. I just wanted to kind of see how things were going to play out a little bit. Nike, they keep coming in with little Nike trades. Nike's been actually pretty interesting. It is now, I believe, above the 200-day moving average. It's slowly been kind of grinding higher, though 200-day on my and 200-day moving average on my charts is the white line. So trying a Nike long here makes sense as long as you respect that 200-day moving average, and if it dips below it, you get out of it. UPS actually saw a couple times, but big chunky trades came in for UPS. Not the first time that we've seen some activity. This is not this week's, but next week's calls in UPS. I'll go back and I'll look at Bloomberg here for a second. Also above the 200-day moving average, above that yellow line on my chart. So I think some interesting trades. You just have to be a little bit open-minded and not look at the same names all the time. There's some opportunities out there. Also, Visa saw multiple trades, and this would be known as a dip buyer. Notice that the price has moved all the way back in to the 50-day moving average, and somebody likes it here, and they were buying both December and January calls in Visa. I think there was one more trade. There's a little bit of Lulu week. There's a lot of the normal weekly stuff that happened. I talked about UPS. I talked about Visa. Also, United Airlines. I think some calls may have been rolled a little bit, but these airlines, I like the charts in them. They've really been look like they've been breaking out over the last couple weeks. But another name that's kind of come in a little bit. Let me just reset this because it's zoomed in here. But another name that's kind of come in a bit is United Airlines from breaking out and kind of retesting that 50-day moving average. So I did take this trade today, end of day. I really hadn't traded too much today, so took the opportunity to get long. One name that we got long on Friday was Disney, which I thought had real nice support of the 200-day moving average, and bam, up $1.40 today. So that was nice. We put that on. We put that option trade on for $1 and hit a target at $1.50 today. So that's a 50% profit in one day. So perfect. So that was one trade we did. I also just ended up taking off a number of trades today. And just kind of reassessing a little bit. Some names not necessarily for a loss, but just names that I've already hit 2 or 3 targets on, and just kind of taking off the last piece and just reassessing a little bit. So that's it for today's recap, and I will see you guys back tomorrow morning. As always, I try to mention our website, tribecatradegroup.com. If you want to try what we talk about and the things that we uncover every day, we do this all day, every day in the trading room. So tribecatradegroup.com, check us out, and you can get half off your first month by putting in coupon code TTG. Thanks very much. Have a great night.